On the line. Thanks for that, Liz. That is the program this hour. It is time for 9 News at 6 now, live right now.
Tonight's shark attack. A 10-year-old boy's emergency dash, bitten by a predator while snorkelling on holiday at Coral Bay. Plus, WA's health system in damage control tonight after a leaked email triggered fresh fears over the AstraZeneca vaccine. Police swoop on a Doomsday Prepper accused of hiding a secret stash of guns in a Perth suburban bunker. A worker assaulted by thieves during a brazen smash and grab at a beer bottle shop. Australia's most decorated soldier relives the moment he shot dead a 15-year-old boy. And Perth's land supply squeeze, driving up property prices.
This is 9 News Perth with Michael Thompson.
Good evening. A 10-year-old boy is tonight being flown to Perth after he was bitten on the foot by a shark while holidaying at Coral Bay. The boy was snorkelling with family at a popular reef when the predator attacked.
A vacation to our picturesque Coral Coast turned beachside emergency. A 10-year-old bitten on the foot by a 2-metre bronze whaler. The boy was snorkelling just 75 metres offshore at the popular Five Fingers Reef south of Coral Bay when he was attacked at around 11 a.m. On holiday with family from interstate, he was treated at Coral Bay's nursing post before being flown to Perth Children's Hospital for further treatment. It's not the first shark attack in the area. In March, a spear fisherman was bitten on the leg, only managing to get away after punching the 2-metre shark. Locals say bronze whaler sharks are frequently spotted at Five Fingers Reef, a species experts describe as pack dogs who can be more aggressive than larger species and will bite to protect themselves if threatened. The section of reef is now closed and will remain so until tomorrow afternoon.
And Joshua Dorr is at Perth Children's Hospital tonight. Josh, what is the latest on the boy's condition?
Well, Michael, that Royal Flying Doctors Service flight is on its way to Perth after a short stop in Port Hedland. It will stop again in Geraldton before arriving at Janacourt Airport just after 9 p.m, where the 10-year-old will then be transferred here to Perth Children's Hospital for further treatment. But I am told he is stable and his injuries are non-life-threatening, which is fantastic news on what has definitely been a scary day for this family. That section of Five Fingers Reef south of Coral Bay will remain closed until at least 5 p.m tomorrow afternoon or until deemed safe, with land and sea patrol to be conducted along the beach from tomorrow morning. Michael?
Josh, thank you. The WA Health Department is in damage control tonight after a leaked email triggered fresh fears over the AstraZeneca vaccine. A senior COVID-19 advisor is warning the blood clot risk, while small, has increased, but the advice is still to get the jab.
The AstraZeneca brand has taken another public relations hit.
Yeah, it will impact on people considering or not having the AstraZeneca.
The Chief Health Officer is talking about an internal health department email leaked to the media. It was written by communicable disease expert Professor Paul Effler and recommended a higher risk rating for the vaccine when administered to people aged between 50 and 69. That revelation, on the back of a second clotting-related death in Australia, a 52-year-old Sydney woman, prompted an injection of damage control.
What needs to be emphasised here is that if you get the disease, your chance of being hospitalised is about 4.6 per 100,000.
Dr Robertson said the new risk rating suggesting AstraZeneca is now 5 to 8 times more likely to cause blood clots was still extremely low. In the 50 to 59 age group, 1.9 people out of 100,000 who get AstraZeneca may experience clotting.
The reality is we've been working on 1.6 per 100,000 for some time now, so the figures haven't really changed.
This risk is even less in people 60 to 69, but in those aged between 40 to 49, the chances of clotting increases dramatically to 5.2 people per 100,000. And that's why those people and younger cohorts are getting the Pfizer jab.
I'm not seeing a great public relations media campaign to explain to people who are hesitant how they're going to be looked after.
No problem at all. So, I'm happy. Don't feel anything.
Just felt comfortable with the whole thing.
Yeah, I'm still standing.
Excellent. Good on you. More than 3 million AstraZeneca jabs have been delivered nationally, with just 48 people experiencing blood clot side effects. 2 have died. In very encouraging news, WA has no COVID cases whatsoever right now, and that includes all those in hotel quarantine, remembering many came from India. And the improving situation in Melbourne has prompted the McGowan government to downgrade our hard border. People can now travel from Victoria, but Michael, they must do 14 days in home quarantine and be tested regularly.
All right, Gary, thank you. Police have swooped on a Doomsday Prepper in Willetton, accused of hiding a secret stash of weapons in a suburban bunker. The 72-year-old allegedly had an arsenal of firearms and ammunition, and even the blueprint to build his own machine gun.
Stored by an elderly man, these are not the common tools you'd find in a backyard shed.
The guy's just I'd describe him as a bit of a gun nut.
9 rifles, more than 5,000 rounds of ammunition, gunpowder and machinery, all seized in a raid on a 72-year-old man's Willetton home.
It's a privilege to have a firearms licence, and for those that go beyond, you will be prosecuted.
This booklet reads like an IKEA catalogue, but the DIY guide builds a submachine gun used in World War II.
He had the components, he had the blueprints, he had all the material there in the process to start that manufacturing process. Out on the streets, that weapon is deadly.
Detectives say he's a Doomsday Prepper. The guns weren't for sale and he's not part of a wider crime network.
He had tinned food, water, enough ration packs, I would say. There was a location within the premises which was used in preparation for something, yes.
This is the home where police say the 72-year-old man was intending to build the guns and store the ammunition. But what makes this alleged crime so concerning is that they were being held just across the road from a senior high school.
In the wrong hands, these weapons are deadly.
John Bunt, who lives at the home with his partner, will face court next month on 10 charges. Michael Stamp, 9 News.
A worker has been assaulted after confronting 2 thieves during a smash and grab at a beer bottle shop. The attack was captured on security cameras, prompting a warning for staff not to take the law into their own hands.
2 would-be thieves cornered, trapped inside the bottle shop they've just tried to rob. But they aren't alone and they're not going down without a fight. The duo picking up 4 cartons inside Celebrations in Belia at 7:20 last night. They attempt to walk out but are stopped by a staff member. One appears to make a last attempt to leave, but the door is locked, and that's when things escalate.
What I wonder is what that employee is being told, and I think obviously there's a good intention there that he doesn't want to see theft going on.
This type of behaviour is nothing new for bottle shops across Perth. A 22-year-old man was left with head injuries in March after he tried to stop 3 thugs stealing booze at Midland.
It does come to our attention that there are assaults and there are violent incidents that might involve, threats and things like that, and that can impact employees in terms of both their physical well-being but also in terms of their mental health.
The WA Liquor Store Association says while incidents like this are rare, members must always look after their own well-being. That means they should never take the law into their own hands under any circumstances. The bottle shop says it's reported the incident to police, just thankful its worker made it out with minor injuries. Mia Edgerton-Warburton, 9 News.
Police are tonight hunting 2 people captured on security cameras running from officers after a high-speed chase through Perth's northern suburbs. The Subaru Liberty didn't stop when police tried to pull it over on Franklin Road in Wanneroo at about 11 o'clock last night. The car was later found dumped 10 kilometres away at a Kingsley intersection. Police divers have failed to find a missing windsurfer off the coast of Kalbarri. John Lavrak vanished in rough conditions on Wednesday. The water search was called off for the day while drones scour the shoreline. Forensic testing is continuing to determine whether remains found yesterday belonged to the 72-year-old. Victoria Cross recipient Ben Robert Smith has told his defamation trial the military's highest honour has brought him misfortune and pain. The SAS soldier also said he'd never murdered a prisoner, describing one of the allegations as entirely made up.
11 years to the day after the Battle of Tizak, Ben Robert Smith recalled the choice of whether to push forward. The decision was, could you go home and face their families if you didn't do anything and they were to be injured or killed? Robert Smith described shooting insurgents, killing one who was about 15 years old. Was it within the rules of engagement? Yes. How did you feel about it then and how do you feel about it now? I struggle. An estimated 76 Taliban fighters were killed in the 14-hour engagement, which earned Robert Smith the Victoria Cross. Rather than being a highlight, Robert Smith said that put a target on his back. As soon as you become a tall poppy, that gives people a chance to belittle you and to use that award against you out of pure spite. Some of those officers will give evidence for 9 newspapers, the Sydney Morning Herald and The Age. Robert Smith denied one of the key allegations that he kicked unarmed Afghan Ali Jan off a cliff and made it look like he was killed in combat. He said none of that happened and there weren't even any captured Afghans that day. Of another alleged murder on the Helmand River, Robert Smith said he swam towards an armed Afghan alone because he thought it might be Hekmatullah. The rogue officer had killed 3 Australians on Taran Kart base. I find this one particularly disgusting because, if anything, you think people would be proud of someone to do something like that. 9 newspapers will get the chance to question him next week as they use the defence of truth. Kelly Fedor, 9 News.
A judge has slammed the federal government's Robo Debt scheme as a shameful chapter, a massive failure and a huge waste of money. A settlement has now been reached for hundreds of thousands of victims wrongly chased for money they didn't owe.
Felicity de Somerville knows the pain caused by Robo Debt.
I thought my world had fallen apart.
In 2016, the mother of 2 was paying a Centrelink debt. When $11,500 was taken by debt collectors overnight, she couldn't afford her daughter's medication and contemplated the worst.
What's the point in me trying? Sorry.
Her story is one of hundreds of thousands, victims of a scheme drawn up by a government. And today, a federal court judge agreed to a settlement worth hundreds of millions of dollars.
Without this class action, the Morrison government would never have admitted that this scheme of robo-debt was unlawful.
Justice Bernard Murphy said the class action exposed a shameful chapter and a massive failure in public administration. Over 4 years, the government used a computer system to calculate overpayments to welfare recipients based on tax office averaging of their income. The judge said problems with robo-debt should have been obvious to the senior public servants and the responsible ministers. The government wrongly pursued 430,000 Australians for $1.76 billion. It's now paying back $751 million and $112 million in compensation to 380,000 people, which minus costs could work out to be on average $230 per person. Victims suffered anxiety, distress, some took their own lives.
There has been untold suffering to hundreds of thousands.
Justice Murphy labelled robo-debt a huge waste of money, but added it was unlikely ministers or bureaucrats knew it was unlawful. Labor doesn't want this to be the final chapter. It wants to pin it on someone in government through a royal commission, something the government's long been against.
This is very difficult when it comes to recovering debts. We apologise for the hurt, the harm.
Whether or not they accept responsibility is now redundant. Because we won.
Jonathan Kersley, 9 News.
The wild weather in Victoria has claimed a second victim, a woman aged in her 20s. She went missing on Wednesday on her way to work on the state's south coast. There have been 42 flood rescues in the past 24 hours, and tonight 86,000 people are still without power. Scott Morrison has just touched down in the UK for the G7 summit, which is officially underway in Cornwall. The pitch